So, everybody, welcome to our awesome webinar series. I am your host, Heather Haro, who does not know how to work her own volume. So I am so thrilled that someone much smarter than I is my guest today. JD Collar is I don't know what your official title is, JD. You can let us in on that, but I know JD. He'll give you his official title. I know him as the compliance guru, expert, the go-to man for compliance at Real Value RX. We reach out to him and chat with him often about these issues. So I called him a few weeks ago and was asking him if he could dive into the recent updates about DSCSA, what we should know, and give us the dirty details on the form, which Lisa was like, this form. And I was like, well, JD's going to give us all the details. So JD, introduce yourself to us and take it away.
I'm JD Collier, and I have been in the compliance world for most of my adult life, but and I've been with Real Value RX for 10 years and pharmaceuticals, and also have experience in manufacturing and some other pieces, but I've been at the distributor level and a little bit of experience at the dispenser level as well. So I have been living this DSCSA thing for the full 10 years of this fun process.
Wow. So it's been going into effect for 10 years? Like they've been trying to pull it together for 10 years?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, but it's only been recently that they're like, this is the absolute cutoff day. Get your stuff together. We're coming down hard. Before it was like, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. That's the way I understand it?
Well, yes, and there was delays and then stabilization period, and I'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay.
There's another small delay, but for people who don't qualify for the small delay, one of the things they'll have to be ready to say is, why have you not been ready after 10 years?
Right. Okay, so give us just the ABCs, the absolute what we need to know to get our pharmacies prepared and ready to go if we do extend the period, if we don't extend the period.
So first of all, a lot of people are going ahead anyway, right? Because if you were already almost there, just go ahead and get across the finish line and move on. But the first thing you have to know is, are you exempt or not? Are you a small dispenser? If you have, do you want me to go through my slides, or you want to go?
No, please.
That's a yes, please.
Yes, please. You are the expert.
We can keep talking while I do this. It's
a little slow.
Well, I have a screen that's stupid large.
Oh,
so I only share a piece.
Well, and the reason that this all even came about is there was yet again another I think it was June 24th, another extension release, new information that came out that it's like, what else could we say about the subject from the FDA's point of view, I suppose, is what I'm thinking. Now, if you said earlier, and I love this, if you've already prepared, just flip the switch and move on with your life, then you don't have to worry about these types of things, right? Like, this is a thing that once it's turned on forever and you're good, JD? Or do you have to continuously do maintenance on it?
Can you see my screen now?
Yep, I can.
So the first thing I wanted to just explain is that, yes, it did go online at November, like we were just saying, in 2013. Everybody in the entire drug supply chain is affected. Your manufacturer partners, your 3PLs, your distributors, everyone is impacted. And all types of dispensers. So that's pharmacies, doctors' offices, hospitals, clinics, everybody. Okay. So the biggest piece right now, one of the big pieces that's happening, in addition to serialization, is everybody must be authorized. So you have to be, and you'll hear the term ATP, right? So an authorized trading partner. So that means that when the dispenser is subject to this, they'll need to make sure that the manufacturer or repacker it has a valid FDA registration, that their wholesale distributor has a valid license per state law, that any dispenser has a valid license for their state, for whatever state, if they,
Right.
if they need a special control license or whatever the different licenses are. Um, and another thing that, Heather, to mention is that this is a source of confusion. This isn't everything. This is just like what we used to say in the old days, legend drug. This is
Mhm.
finished human prescription drugs. So your OTCs, your 510Ks, a lot of your audience probably uses some 510K products, some medical devices.
Sure.
Um, I know that you guys talk about APIs like semaglutide, tirzepatide. Those are not a part of this. You'd still use your certificate of authenticity for those guys. Compounded homeopathic drugs, you don't have to serialize. So if you compound something, that's not something you have to serialize. Um, Animal drugs, vet meds that are human meds prescribed to Fido, those still come in as a human med. But if you are a pharmacy that does vet meds that are not human meds, with that alternate FDA classification, those are not subject to DSCA.
Okay.
And then all the radiologics and blood components and all the really fancy stuff that gets more into the surgical and hospital space outside of pharmacies. Some pharmacies, maybe some of those pharmacies do that.
Sure.
Any questions about the product? Should we like camp on this for a second? Because there's always a lot of conversation about is this not?
I forgot to mention, if anybody has any questions, just put them in the chat and I will, this is a conversation, so feel free to hop in the conversation. If you have questions for JD, hop them in the chat and I will interrupt him as I am so good at doing. So we have no questions this far, JD, although with the products, so in most pharmacies, the workflows are the same for all the products. Is this
Right.
going to disrupt workflow to the degree that you now have to have these products over here and these products over here and have separate workflows for them?
Oh, that's a great point. Uh, you don't have to isolate any product, but it does create a distinction that because it'll be confusing. You may know as a pick, as a pharmacist, you may know full well that this is an ANDA or an NDA, but your tech may or may not know that this particular item is a 510K, and they're like, "Where's my documentation for this?" So there'll be a little bit of that learning curve because a lot of the 510Ks, you know look like a drug at
Right.
blush, but they don't have the same type of product labeling. So it would catch your eye because it doesn't have the same product labeling as a drug. But
Sure.
yeah, you don't have to segregate the inventory like the old days with like 340B and stuff.
Okay. Okay. I think we can move on. I think everybody's good.
So dispensers have a number of different transactions. So it's important to note that it's mainly orders that dispensers have to worry about. Whether you're ordering direct from a manufacturer, from us as Real Value, as a distributor, or maybe from your primary, those orders uh, are subject to this new law and will come with some new tricks that we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
Um, but if you are dispensing to patients, a lot of people know this now, but in the early days of this law, I was very confused about this personally. When you take two bottles and you pour them into the machine, you don't need to track the serial on the pills. It's not about pills, it's about the order that came into you, right? So then if there's a sale or a merger, those are handled differently under your state laws. they don't have to, they're not really subject to DSCSA.
Okay.
So I'm going to talk, I'm going to show a picture of this in a minute, but I wanted to explain. So right now, I think everybody's familiar with the lot level information that you have that is being exchanged right now. And a lot of people will just call them their pedigrees, their PEDs, the T3.
Sure.
You get asked for this
Right.
stuff from state auditors, from PBM audits can sometimes require this. Um, there's a few other agencies that can come in and ask you for it. And sometimes, as a dispenser, you're like, let me just kind of get a handle on everything. So that's in place right now, and everybody's probably experienced those. That includes transaction information. So those components of a valid pedigree, now called a T3, included transaction information. And that is just as simple as I sold this drug, it was this strength, it was, this form, to in this many units to this pharmacy. And
Right.
then it includes this transaction statement, which makes the lawyers happy in the world. This product complied with all laws, blah, blah, blah. You've
Right.
probably seen that on all your invoices for your primaries down at the bottom. It's on ours as well.
Right.
Uh, Very common. So there also used to be a component called transaction history, the
Mm-hmm.
TH, and that actually sunset in November of 2023.
Oh,
So that law did go in place, not on the stabilization period. Transaction history did sunset. A lot of providers are continuing to submit it, like they're just continuing to track it. We, for example, still have that information, and over the course of the months and years to come, that will kind of fall away. But
okay.
that's no longer a legal requirement.
Oh, okay.
So and I'm going to talk about the stabilization in a second. I'm kind of going a little bit funny here.
No,
So,
you're okay.
um, so after November of 23, the law is on the books today to say that information and the statement must be provided by a new format called EPSIS, and it's just computer terms. We won't worry about it. Um,
Right.
if you ever look at one, you'll regret it. But it looks like a computer programming is what it looks like. It's called an EPSIS file. It's a
Okay.
little different from if you've heard of EDI. It's a little different.
Okay.
It's not a big deal. But these systems that have come online in the industry can read these files. So
Oh, okay.
the transaction information also has to include something called the product identifier, which includes that serialized data, which is the piece that everyone uh, years ago, less so now, but years ago was freaking out about, right? So they're like, oh my goodness, every single bottle has to be uniquely identified now instead of just that batch or lot number.
Right.
So that is on the books as law today.
Okay.
Then, of course, the FDA did the stabilization period. So we have like a year of reprieve where they're not going to enforce anything or worry about it. So that ends November 27th, 2024, this coming November.
You're coming up on it.
Yeah. So one important thing to think about here is so if we could have one of those like it's all about me moments, right?
Sure.
So I'm in the distribution side. I've got a lot of friends on the manufacturing side, and a lot of friends on the dispensing side. Let's just talk about me. It affects me. I'm not exempt. There's no way for me to be exempt. It's coming online. The FDA has actually come out and said, no, we're not going to extend stabilization. It's happening. You better be
Okay.
ready. And also think about, I always tell people, I'm like, think about the money. The primaries are done and ready, and they don't want to maintain two systems. So there's going to
Oh,
be there's a lot of momentum now from the industry saying, no, we're ready. Like,
yeah.
come on, let's move. But the small dispenser community was like, ha,
Right.
because you
Right.
have so many clinical things to do and so many new things happening.
Sure.
So, so the EPSIS data exchange is not enforced right now, but it will be enforced after the end of November of this year.
And this will be, I hate to use this analogy, but it's basically just a flip of the switch, right? Like September or November 26th, you're on your you're on your reprieve. November 27th, we have to have this all in place, or everybody's in trouble. Now, does that mean okay, so manufacturers and you, JD, since you are all of real value, you guys are already pushing forward with this, that we don't have to worry about you. There's nothing that we have to worry about. As a pharmacy owner, I don't have to worry about JD or the manufacturers. They're getting their ducks in a row.
If a distributor or a manufacturer is not ready by the end of November this year, they won't be selling. And I think every one of us knows that. And if you want to stay in business, they're going to be ready.
Okay.
We will.
Okay.
And I know I've heard of a few tiny people that are not, but
okay,
I think everyone will be.
Okay. And so for pharmacy owners, what now? What if, tell me where we should be and what we need to do to get there.
So let me go out of order.
Okay.
So exemptions. So the FDA did a few weeks ago drop a bomb. We knew a little bit was coming, but it was interesting what they ended up saying. Small dispensers were granted a exemption from a few requirements, not the entire law. That's important to point out.
Okay.
Small dispensers were granted an exemption from certain requirements until 2026 November.
Okay.
Okay. So that means, and the way you count that is 25 or fewer FTE, and that's just pharmacists or pharmacy techs. Does not include your bookkeeping staff. It does not include front of store staff. That's not a pharmacy tech. So it's just if you have 25 or fewer, you are granted an exemption. You don't have to do anything
at all.
As far as apply, you don't have to apply for anything. You just were given this extension. You may continue. They at FDA, of course, they would say, please continue. But if you cannot, it's okay. So one thing to take note is this is not by store. They actually added a note that I can't remember how they said it, but it's by corporate entity. So if you have a chain, you could but that your store only could be subject to it. This is, this gets into the weeds because I think I've heard a lot of people saying, but I'm a franchise. That's a separate corporate entity. So, you have to seek help on that piece if you're unclear.
Okay.
You don't have to tell anybody or notify your primary or your secondaries. You can just keep doing business.
Okay.
But what I've seen when we've asked people for that GLN, that new number that like your primaries gave you,
right.
Or you can get yourself, we're still asking for it because we still have to have it, right? So then people are saying, it's delayed, you don't need it. I'm like, I still need it. So if people ask for it, please still provide it. And then if you have questions about your GLN, I can help explain that as well. But it's just we're not exempt, even if you are. So, and if you don't give it to us, it's actually not the end of the world. I could use your NPI, but I will still need the GLN eventually.
Where do they find the GLN? Where is that?
So all three primaries actually enumerated a GLN for their customers. So, for example, on the McKesson invoice, there's a spot on there, and it actually lists it on your invoice. And then some of them notified you by email, and then I've heard from quite a lot of people that have received that they made their own, and then their PBM made one for them, and then they also had a little account with not PBM, I meant primary, and then they had another account with Cardinal, for emergency supply or something, and they got another, and they're like, which one do I use? And it's actually easier than it sounds, because it's not that easy to turn one off. You really just have to pick one, and it's not the end of the world. Just pick one and make that it.
what if you don't have a primary, JD?
So for the can we say on this channel, fortunate few who do not have a primary,
Yep.
then then you can get one yourself on GS1. I can provide a link after this.
Okay.
It's really easy. I think it's like, oh, I wasn't ready for that. It's less than $200. I can't remember the exact number, but it's pretty
Okay.
cheap.
We can add that in our email, the replay email and all that information. Okay. Yeah, and
Most people have been given a, because more than just the big three gave GLNs to people, because I know some other secondaries did.
okay. All right. Very
We
good.
did not.
Okay.
Um, so does that answer that question?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm
Yes.
going to jump back to,
Okay.
so what is actually required for people that are not exempt?
Thank you.
So right now, they will have to identify, quarantine, and investigate suspect product. So if you get something in from in the door that does not have a product identifier, and can you see it on my screen, Heather?
Yeah, yeah. Yep, we can
So the product identifier has to have those components. It has a human readable portion and a machine portion. So if it should have that in there. If it doesn't have it, or if you have other reasons to believe it is not legitimate product, then you are required to quarantine that product and potentially refuse it. You have that option as well. But generally, by the time you see something, I didn't understand when the FDA said that, because once you've see if it does or doesn't have it, it's way too late to refuse the package, right? So,
Oh, right.
so you have to quarantine and figure out what's going on. And then you have to file a form with the FDA within 24 hours. That's law today, and it's been the law for a little while.
Okay.
It's really uncommon. Most all of us buy from trusted sources, so it's there's so many checks and balances in the system already. I haven't seen an illegitimate product, and probably I think I've seen it once.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it wasn't even like a legality issue. It was like, I think like Mylan or one of these manufacturers just had an error on it. So,
Oh,
and they
I
took it
see.
back. No big deal. So, um, so uh this is all in place right now. Not a part of any delay, stabilization, anything. If you have suspect product, the FDA expects you to report it. Um, on November 27th, 2024, distributors have to verify product every time you return something for your distributor. They have to then check that serial number and verify that number with the manufacturer of the product that it is okay to sell, or else
Okay.
or else the wholesaler cannot make it saleable again,
Oh, okay.
which is um, dubious. Dispensers, you have to verify if you're not exempt. You have to verify at least 3 packages or 10% of the shipment. And if you got if you got 2 bottles, you have to verify both.
Right.
Um, so you don't have to look at every single bottle if you got 10 cases of something coming in. You have to look at 10%.
Okay.
So that then ties back into the exemptions. So exempt dispensers, I'm sorry, I'm at the kind of the bottom half of exemptions. So exempt dispensers are exempt from that 3 package 10% rule. You just have to, if you spot illegitimate products, still report it, but you don't have to do this 10% rule anymore, or yet. Um, and then you're exempt. The exemption includes that EPSIS file. You don't have to worry about product level serialized tracking.
Okay. And so for small pharmacies, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to fill out a form. I don't have to let the FDA know. I don't have to let you know. I can just continue with my business as is until 2026.
Yes, and if you have 24 full-time equivalent employees, This is all measured as of November 27th, 2024. So
Okay.
you might want to wait till December to hire that 25th person. Um, so that's when it's measured. So
Okay.
that is a good segue into people who do have 20, greater than 25.
Okay.
So if you have more than 25 and you still don't think you're going to be ready, this is all about the whole waiver
I
situation.
gotcha. The form, the
Yeah,
big form.
yeah,
Okay.
and it's can we provide the link to people after in an email
Absolutely.
to where
Yes.
that is? Yeah.
Yep.
So it's an application basically to the FDA. Um, don't think that this is a form that you can, it's not a long form, but don't think it's a form you can just, kind of gloss over and fill out real quick and, then move on with your life. The FDA, first of all, said they had to be in, this is a sad thing to say right now, by August 1st.
Okay.
It wasn't a hard deadline. They just said you have to have it in by August 1st in order for us to hope that you can get it in, that we can approve you by
Mhm.
November 27th. The
Right.
application is an application. It doesn't mean I fill this out in order to become exempt. It means I fill this out to apply for a waiver.
Okay.
And I have heard from like the head of FDA that they are reading these thinking, why is it not ready after 10 years? So, you know, they will be thinking that. So just know that you need to provide documentation about, you know, we didn't know what was going on because, things were unclear. The FDA was unclear. I mean, we don't want to point fingers, but, a lot of us have wondered what was going on and then just found out like a year ago, right?
Right.
So, just know they did say, we will be thinking this,
Okay.
and provide that rationale. And what they're telling us now is that, oh, I don't think I put it in my slide, but they said it could take um what did it say? I think it said 60 to 90 days to reply or to, on if
Um,
it's approved or not. So right now they're saying you probably wouldn't be approved by November 27th.
so
And
really plead your case.
yeah, plead your case. And there's nothing wrong with having a case and to plead, because we all have a lot going on. Um, and maybe you just stepped into this new business or, there's a lot of, and, you inherited a problem, so those are valid reasons. But one thing to think about, oh, did I lose my train of thought? I think I did.
I think you're okay. So you were saying that the FDA is really taking a look at these. They're not just you're not, it's not an application for namesake. It's a true application, and they're reviewing them and then making a decision whether they're going to give you the exemption or not. So
Yeah.
plead
And
your
that's what I was
case.
gonna say. It's not a
Great.
sign-up list. It's not a
Yeah.
sign-up list. I'm like putting my name on the list of exemptions. It,
Right.
it's an application. So
Okay.
that was the end of my slides, but we can talk about anything else you'd like.
No, this is great. We've gone a little bit over, but this is so important. I think it's worth it. JD, for those folks who are ready, our pharmacies, our small pharmacies who are under 25, I know that you said it before, but can you kind of go into like, should they hold off until 2026? Is there any good or bad of holding off if you're under 25, or just if you're already ready, just
Well,
get
if you're
into
already ready, just do it because state regulators may get confused, to be honest. Um, and I've heard some will still ask the question, and PBMs will be confused. But if you're already ready, I recommend just doing it. If you're not ready, the FDA's request is that you take the 2 years to get ready, not wait until October of 26, because you'll be in a lot of trouble if you wait until that time.
And maybe JD, maybe I should have you back on, or have your, I know you guys are partnering with LSpedia to talk about how to get ready. Maybe that's our next step, is really how to get ready for this. If you're not, take the reprieve, but take those 2 years to really buckle down and get yourself ready. We got a question: does a compounding pharmacy dispensing hundreds a week Are they required to trace under this new rule?
If the compounding pharmacy is also doing finished dose drugs that you purchased in that form, yes. If you
Okay.
compounded the drug, no, you don't have to. Once you receive that product in, let's say it's a cream, topical cream, or maybe a couple of topical creams you're putting together, just taking something from the old days.
Right.
So that dispense of the compounded 3 products, I don't have to serialize or worry about it. But the cereals did come in on those 3 individual tubes.
Gotcha. That makes sense. All right. Well, JD, you were amazing. I now understand it, so I can help our people. I hope everybody understands. If you have any questions at all, I will say that the folks at Real Value, JD, Tom, all my friends over there are exceptional to work with. They are friendly. I bother them a ton and they never yell at me. They are the nicest, most informative folks. And the one thing that I really love about Real Value, and I work with them a little bit different. I talk to JD much more than I would be ordering products, but I know that this philosophy that their company, it kind of flows through is, if they don't know the answer, they'll find the answer and get back to you. And how refreshing is that?
Always learning.
There's not just a lot of BS being thrown around, which I absolutely adore about your company, and you get back to us. And it's not just me. I'm not special. I don't. I mean, everybody knows I think I'm special, but they treat everybody like that, and from the head down, from CEO, owner, founder, all the way down to the fellas that I'm sure you guys have all met, fellas and gals that you've all met inside the booths at trade shows. I love your company. Speaking of trade show, our new marketer, Cody, would kill me if I did not mention that Lisa's coming back from all of her vacations and busyness of the summer. Lisa's summers are insane. They're make me tired just looking at her calendar. But she's coming back on Sunday, and our buy one, get one free special for our summit tickets will be done. So go, if you haven't gotten your tickets and you're going to go, you might as well get them now. They're $650 and you get 2. So 2 tickets for $650. You can't beat that deal. Go scoop up those tickets before Sunday. It's pharmacyprofitsummit.com. And JD, if we want to get a hold of you, is there just fill out the form on Real Value RX's website?
You can call the 800 number. They know how to get me.
Okay. All right. And all of this information will be in the replay. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome Wednesday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.